Hi, I'm Terry. I'm going to be reading Tales from the Couch by Dr. Mark Agresti, and I'm going to be reading chapter 12. It says, I wake up shaky. One morning, Henry came to my office for a first session. He was 49 years old, but looks older. He's a little under 6 feet tall, maybe 25 pounds overweight, with long, blondish gray hair that looked a mess. His beard looked like a week old. His chief complaint was, I wake up shaky. I said, what do you mean, you wake up shaky? What's going on exactly? He replied, every morning lately I've been getting the shakes, especially in my hands. I said, well, one big thing that causes that is drinking the night before, to the point where you go into withdrawal and you get shaky. How much are you drinking, Henry? He thought a moment and said, I'm drinking about 15 to 20 beers a night. I fall asleep on the couch and I wake up when I'm shaky. I'm thinking to myself that 15 to 20 beers is a lot of alcohol. I couldn't drink 15 to 20 waters a night, much less beers. He was going to need to detox from that amount. So I asked, how long have you been doing that? He replied, well, about 7 or 8 years. Prior to that, I was sober for about 5 years. I then asked him, do you drink that much every night, even during the work week? When he said yes, I shuddered at the thought of the answer to my next question. And what about weekends? Do you drink that same amount or do you drink more? He rubbed the stubble on his cheek and said, well, on the weekends I usually drink a half quart of vodka plus the beers. No doubt about it, Henry was alcohol dependent, and his withdrawal, if not managed correctly, could result in life-threatening consequences. I explained to him, Henry, the reason you're waking up in the morning and having tremors is you're going into alcohol withdrawal. You can't maintain enough alcohol in your system to prevent you from going into withdrawal. The alcohol level drops, and that makes your nervous system go haywire and you shake. He then asked, what can you do about that, Doc? Is there a pill for that? Something to stop the shaking? I said, no, sorry, Henry, there's no pill for that. Listen, you have an alcohol problem. You're going to have to stop drinking. He said, well, I can't stop drinking because the shaking will just get worse. I told him, yeah, you could even have a seizure and go into fetal delirium, tremens, from withdrawing from that much alcohol. You're going to have to detox. He said, well, I go to work every day. I'm not an alcoholic. I hear this all the time. Functional alcoholism. I don't know who came up with the term. To me, it was a total oxymoron. Just because you manage to get through the day doesn't mean you're functional. I had to make him understand this point and said, look, you can call it whatever you want, but you have a dependency on alcohol. Besides working, what else do you do? He said, well, the drinking pretty much takes up all of my free time. I asked Henry, what are your days like? What kind of job do you have? What do you do? He said, I work construction. I do infrastructure, roads, and sewers. I said, you drink all that at night and you're out in the hot Florida sun? How brutal is that? He said, I sweat like a pig, and sometimes I can't catch my breath. I'm at the job by 7 a.m. and by 4 p.m. I'm dying for my first beer. Sometimes even sooner. I always stop at the gas station on the way home and get 2 20-ounce beers and guzzle them down quickly before I even get home. Then once I'm home, I cool down a little bit, take a shower, and then I just start drinking beer. I drink until I pass out in front of the television. He didn't mention anything about eating, so I asked him, what about food? What do you eat for dinner? Do you even eat dinner? Can you hold anything down? As I expected, he answered, no, I don't really eat much. Maybe some crackers and beef jerky, stuff I buy at the gas station. Been that way for a while now. That's your diet, I asked. Henry, we're going to have to work on this. You're going to have to detox, he said. I don't really need to detox. I really just need for these shakes to go away. I said, Henry, you're not accepting reality here. You've got to come off the alcohol. He replied, take time off from work. This is the most common retort when I bring up with a patient that they're going to need to detox off of alcohol or drugs. They rarely see that if they continue down the road they're on, they won't be able to keep their job anyway. I explained this to Henry. Well, you're not going to be able to keep your job like this anyway, because you're probably going to have to start drinking at work to stop the tremors. Resigned, he said, well, to be honest, I'm already doing that sometimes. Horrified, I said, Henry, you're operating heavy machinery. You're out there working around heavy machinery. How long do you think it's going to be before something terrible happens, before you hurt yourself or someone else? You're drinking, you're driving, you're operating heavy machinery. This is not going to work. Surely you see that. He said, yeah. That's why I'm here. I kind of figured I need to do something. I said, Henry, I'll tell you what I'll do. I want you to not drink tonight, and I'm going to give you this drug called lorazepam. It's in a class of drugs called benzodiazepines, and it's used to detox people off of alcohol. I'm only going to give you 4 tablets to get you through tonight. Just so you're aware, if you drink while taking this drug, you can overdose and die. Take one of these when you get home, one before bedtime, and one when you wake from sleep. I'm giving you 1 extra tablet in case you need it, but call me before you take it. Then I want you to start taking 2 vitamins, thiamine and folate. Those are usually deficient in alcoholics and people with poor nutrition, and will help your body recover from the alcohol abuse. I also want you to take L-theanine. This is an amino acid found in green tea, which will help keep your anxiety and blood pressure down. I'm also giving you clonidine, a pill that lowers blood pressure, helps with withdrawal, and may help decrease any cravings for alcohol. He said, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'll try it. I handed him the list of supplements and prescriptions and said, here's my cell number. I'll walk you through any issues that may come up. I also need you to drink as much water as possible, and I want you to check your blood pressure. And let's just see how this goes. If things get out of hand, if your blood pressure gets too high, you may have to go to the emergency room. The whole plan was designed to treat the signs and symptoms of alcohol withdrawal before they happened. With that, I gave him a copy of my book, A Chance to Change, and sent him home to start the process. I wanted him to read the book and understand that the only person that could stop him from drinking is him. He called me at 4 p.m. saying, I didn't drink all day, but I'm getting really shaky right now. What should I do? I told him, take the clonidine and then put the lorazepam under your tongue and let it dissolve. I'll call you back in an hour and a half. When I called him back and asked how he was, he said, the tremor went away. I'm feeling pretty good. I bought a home blood pressure monitor and I just took it. It said it's 125/84 and my pulse is 76. Is that okay? I said, yes, your pressure and pulse are okay. The withdrawal can raise it, but the lorazepam and clonidine will keep it in check. Take the vitamins and supplement and then try to put something in your stomach. Try and eat a little something, maybe just some chicken soup. Just get something in your stomach. I was concerned that the withdrawal would cause vomiting and he wouldn't be able to take oral medications. I called him back about 3.5 hours later to check on him. He said, I'm getting a little antsy again. I'm getting really shaky. I got some ramen noodles down. I took all the supplements and I've had like a gallon of water. I said, good. That's all good. How's your blood pressure right now when you're shaky and feeling antsy? He said, it's a little higher, 146/95, and my pulse is 127. I said, okay. Remember that I said that would happen with the withdrawal. You have the medications to keep it in check. It's been roughly 4 hours. I want you to take the clonidine and another 2 milligram of lorazepam now. It's about 8 p.m. Now I want you to take them both again at 12:30 a.m. and again at 4:30 a.m. And I'll see you in the office at 8:30 in the morning. You should find someone that can drive you to the office while we're detoxing you. He said he would do that. I added, call me if you run into any trouble. I didn't get any calls that night, and he came in the next morning. He looked a little worse for wear, which was to be expected at 24 hours in. When I asked him how he was feeling, he said, I feel horrible. I'm glad I took the week off from work because there's no way I could work like this. I actually feel worse than when I was drinking. I said, look, you had to know it wasn't going to be easy, but it's worth it. You're doing great. Hang in there. Take your vitamins and supplements and drink lots of water and then eat a good breakfast. I stress drinking the water because alcohol dehydrates the body, and it can take 3 days for the body to rehydrate. I took his vitals. His blood pressure was 127/86, and his pulse was 98. I had him blow a portable breath test for alcohol, and he blew a 0. Excellent. Now for the next step. I told him I'm going to give you a medication called delucifrin for RAM. If you drink on this medication, you'll get really sick. So now you can't drink. I gave him a cup of water and watched him swallow the tablet. I reiterated, you just took a pill that if you drink, you're going to get really sick. All right. He said he got it. With that, I gave him 4 more lorazepam and sent him home and told him I'll call him in about 4 hours, but to call me sooner with any problems. I called him about 4 hours later and asked how he was doing. He said that he had eaten a good breakfast and taken the supplements, but he was getting a little shaky. He took his blood pressure, which was 138/85, and his pulse was 118. I told him that he could take the lorazepam and I'd see him in the office the next morning and to call me if he had any trouble in the interim. I didn't hear from him overnight, and he was there promptly in the morning. He looked rough, but he was there. I took his vitals and they were slightly elevated, but not problematic. I handed him the disulfiram and a cup of water. I said, okay, we're doing pretty good. Don't forget, if you drink after this medicine, you're going to get really sick. Nodding, he said, I got it. I'm with you. I'm 100% working with you. I told him, okay, the meds are loaded now, and it's been 48 hours since your last drink. I congratulated him, but I think he knew he had a rough road to travel ahead. I said, today, I want you to take 1 milligram of lorazepam 3 times a day and then 2 milligrams at bedtime. I reminded him to eat, take the supplements, and drink lots of water. I told him to call me with any problems and that I'd see him tomorrow morning. On the 3rd day, Henry looked about as good as expected, which is to say not so good. I said, listen, this could be the worst day. I explained that hours 72 through 100 of an alcohol detox are the worst part, but that I'd get him through it. I reminded him to take the 1 milligram lorazepam 3 times a day and told him I'd check on him later in the day. I called him around 5 p.m. and he said he was doing pretty well. I said, take 2 milligrams of lorazepam tonight and I'll see you in the morning. He came in on the 4th day looking a little medicated. That's because the lorazepam was building up in his system. I said, now that we're at day 4, I want you to only take the 1 milligram of lorazepam if you really need it. He's been drinking a lot of water and taking the vitamins and supplements. All things considered, he's looking pretty good. The swelling in his face had gone down a bit and he looked like he'd lost about 10 pounds. When I asked him how he was feeling, he said he was okay. But I could see he was still a bit anxious. I said, so today is day 4 and it's Friday. This weekend, only take the 1 milligram lorazepam if you really need it or if you have trouble sleeping. I'll call you in to check in the morning. When I called him, he said, I'm fine. I feel a little jumpy, a little shaky earlier this afternoon, so I took the 1 milligram of lorazepam. He said he was eating well, drinking lots of water, and taking the disulfiram and all the supplements. Since all seemed well, I told him I'd call the next day, Sunday. Sunday comes, and when I called him, he said, just for the hell of it, I took 1 milligram of lorazepam last night so I could get some sleep. And then earlier this afternoon, I took one again because I was still a little shaky. It helped. I don't feel so shaky now. I asked him Monday morning, which was day 7, I asked him how it felt to go a week without drinking. He said, it feels good to be off the booze. And now my problem is I'm a little depressed. I can't sleep and I've got to go back to work tomorrow. I said, I can give you some medications to help with that if you want to try them. When he said yes, he did want to try that route. I said, I'm going to put you on trazodone, 50 milligrams at night, which is an antidepressant and will help you sleep. There's also a drug called escitalopram that will help with the depression and anxiety. We'll start that at half a tablet per day, which is 10 milligrams a day for 1 week. Then go to a whole tablet, 20 milligrams per day. Pardon me. Take that in the morning and I'll see you back on Friday. When I saw Henry on Friday, he looked great. He'd had a haircut and was clean shaven. The tremors were all but gone. He said, I'm feeling great. I'm not drinking. I'm taking that disulfiram drug every day so I'm not tempted to drink. I'm sleeping at night with your trazodone and I'm just about to start taking a whole one of your escitalopram. I'm back at work and people there are telling me how much better I look. I said that all sounded fantastic and that I was proud of him. I told him that he'd made it through the fire and that I'd like to see him in 2 weeks. Henry didn't wait 2 weeks. After 10 days, he came in and he said, you know, my mood is pretty good. I'm sleeping okay, but I don't have a life. I come home from work and have nothing to do. I said, small wonder. I'll tell you why you don't have a life, Henry. It's because you set your life up so that you could come home every day and drink, right? You got rid of your girlfriend. You got rid of your friends, right? He said, yeah. I left the bowling league. I left the softball league. I stopped working on my hobby where I build lights out of shells I collected. I stopped everything I used to like doing. I said, you cut yourself off from everyone and everything. You have no friends. You have no girlfriends. You have no commitments on the weekend. What did that let you do? He was nodding as I said it and answered, it let me drink. I continued, so you designed your life so all you had to do is show up for work. And all that work did was give you the money to drink and keep your apartment. He said, yep, that's it in a nutshell. You're right, I get it. I've got to get a life. I said, you know what? Why don't you start showing up at AA meetings? I'm not the biggest fan of AA, but I'm not against it. It definitely serves a need for some people. A lot of people owe their sobriety to it. And I said, why don't you go? Because that 4 to 7 times time a day is a rough time. You show up at 5 o'clock meeting. Why don't you show up at a 5 o'clock meeting? The fellowship is good. I think it's a positive thing. There are people there to talk to, and for one thing, they're not going to be drinking. He said, you know, I'd be willing to go to an AA meeting. I used to go a lot when I was sober before. I said, why don't you consider getting back into softball and the bowling league again? And you may need to make some apologies to people who you totally blew off so you could drink. Henry had a lot of free time and that caused a lot of anxiety. So he did go to the AA meeting every day. He managed to get back in a bowling league. He tried playing softball, but he got so out of shape it was huffing and puffing before he could ever make it to first base. So that was still a work in progress. He's talking to the girlfriend, but she's still fuming, mad at him for disappearing and not even saying goodbye to her. It was just sort of a drinking goodbye where he just drank and ignored her. He barely noticed when she left. Their relationship ended out of apathy, plain and simple. At least they are talking again. Henry would come in for sessions, and I would stress to him that he had to make a conscious decision to never alter his mental state with a substance again, that it was about personal responsibility and accountability, and the only person that could keep him sober was him. He would tell me that he started making friends and started sharing at the AA meetings, and he had even gotten a sponsor that he really liked. He was building relationships and expanding his sober world. He still had more free time, so he opened up his workshop and started making those lights again. He made the lights out of shells that he collected during walks on the beach. He even started showing up at his outdoor marketplace every Thursday afternoon to sell them. He showed me pictures of them, and they're very cool. He does pretty well selling them. Henry is getting his life back together, but still, you don't check out for more than 7 years and think you're just going to rebound, that everything will be back to the way it was overnight. It's going to take some time because Newsflash, while you were drinking, the world went on without you. Henry was saying that he was in a rush for things to get back to normal. I explained, look, Henry, as a general rule, as long as you drink, as long as it's going to take for you to get back, you're not going to be able to rush this. You hurt your body, you hurt your mind, you hurt your friends, and you hurt your girlfriend. And you hurt your family, and you hurt your job. I mean, where do you think you've been? You've just been showing up for work, going through the motions. You haven't been there. You haven't been trying. Don't you think they noticed? Do you think it's a coincidence that in the past 7 years you haven't been promoted at work? I mean, you've got a fuming, mad, I don't know what you call her, maybe girlfriend, I guess. Then the people on the bowling league, it's been so long since you've shown up there, are mostly all new people there, and they don't even recognize your name. And as for your 2 children, every time you spoke to them, you were drunk. You have a lot of apologies to make. He said, I know, I have a lot of work to do. And I said, but you can do it. With time and patience, you'll get through it. He said, well, the other thing is I'm craving like crazy. I said, yes, your body is going to want you to drink. Your job is to not listen to it. You keep taking that to sulfarum. Don't accidentally run out of it. I promise you, you do not want to drink on that. People get so sick that they wind up in the hospital after doing that. He parroted me saying, my job is to not listen. Got it. I'm still working with Henry and we're 6 months into things. He's still sober, but still struggling. At least that's better than being drunk again and still struggling. This has been really rough for him because come 4 o'clock, he gets off work and driving home, he sees a gas station and he wants to stop. He goes to meetings and talks to his sponsor, but he's still white-knuckling it and sweating it. He's back into his bowling and he's back into softball, even if mostly keeping the bench warm. He's making his lights and he's trying to build a new and better relationship with his old girlfriend. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done because there was a lot of damage done, and Henry's not as sharp as he used to be. He's a 50-year-old man now and the drinking has caught up with him. His brain isn't as sharp and it's not so easy to regroup at 50 years old. He knows he needs to rebuild the relationships with his children, his girlfriend, even the people at work. He showed up at work every day, hungover and irritable, and he's lucky he kept his job. So now Henry shows up to see me once a month and it periodically texts me in between appointments. I keep him on escitalopram for his mood and to help with anxiety. I give him trazodone at night for sleep, and I make sure he takes that disulfiram every day so he doesn't have a weak moment and think he can stop at the gas station and pick up those tall cans of beer. He's a work in progress, a guy who just wanted to help for his shaky hands. The best news is that Henry never has to wake up shaky ever again.